Hash the croissant and the millionaire. The morning sun filtered through the frost-covered windows of Rosie's diner, casting long shadows across the worn linoleum floor. Sarah Bennett moved between the tables with practiced grace, her apron slightly stained from the breakfast rush, her smile warm despite the exhaustion that pressed against her bones. She had been working at the diner for 3 years now, ever since her mother fell ill. The medical bills had piled up like winter snow, silent, relentless, and suffocating. Sarah's dreams of art school had been carefully folded away, packed into a box beneath her bed alongside her sketchbooks and half-finished paintings. The diner was nearly empty now, the lunch crowd still an hour away. Sarah wiped down the counter, her mind wandering to the stack of bills waiting at home. The heat had been shut off twice this month. Her mother needed new medication. The car was making that grinding sound again. The bell above the door chimed softly. Sarah looked up to see an elderly man shuffling inside. His clothes were tattered and mismatched, a faded coat with holes at the elbows, pants held up with frayed rope, shoes that had seen better decades. His white beard was unkempt, his hair wild beneath a stained baseball cap. He carried the weathered look of someone who had spent too many nights on hard benches and cold streets. Some of the remaining customers glanced up, their expressions tightening with discomfort. Old Tom, a regular, shifted in his booth and looked away. The man at the counter gathered his newspaper and moved to a far table. Sarah watched the elderly man pause just inside the doorway, his eyes scanning the room with a peculiar intensity. Then those eyes, sharp and surprisingly clear, met hers. He approached the counter slowly, each step deliberate. Up close, Sarah could see the dirt under his fingernails, the deep lines etched into his weathered face. He smelled of the street, of rain and concrete and resignation. "Excuse me, miss," he said, his voice rough like gravel. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I don't have any money, but I was wondering, could you spare something? Anything, maybe just a piece of bread." Sarah's heart tightened. She saw her own mother's face in his tired eyes. She thought of hunger, of desperation, of the thin line between surviving and sinking. Behind her, she heard Marcus, the cook, clear his throat loudly, a warning. Mr. Peterson, the owner, had made it clear, no handouts. Every item had to be paid for. The diner was barely breaking even as it was. Sarah glanced toward the kitchen, then back at the old man. His hands trembled slightly as they rested on the counter. "Please," she said gently, "have a seat right here." She guided him to the stool nearest the window, where the morning light fell softest. He sat down carefully, as if surprised by the kindness. Sarah moved behind the counter, her mind racing. She thought of her own meager tips jar, barely enough for groceries. She thought of Mr. Peterson's warnings. Then she thought of her mother always saying, "When you have a little, that's when sharing matters most." She poured fresh coffee into a clean mug and set it before him. Then she turned to the kitchen. "Marcus," she called softly, "one breakfast special, please." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Sarah, I'll pay for it myself," she said quietly. "From my tips." She returned to the counter and began gathering items, not just the basic meal, but extras. She added a fresh croissant from the morning's batch, still warm. She included a side of fruit, some orange juice, and 2 packets of butter. She worked carefully, arranging everything on the plate like she was creating one of her paintings. When she set the full breakfast before the old man, his eyes widened. His hands shook as they reached for the fork. This is too much," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I only asked for bread. Everyone deserves a proper meal," Sarah said simply. "Please, take your time. There's no rush." She watched as he took his first bite of the croissant. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, she saw something shift in his expression, not just hunger being satisfied, but dignity being acknowledged. While he ate, Sarah refilled his coffee twice and brought him extra napkins. She didn't hover, giving him space and privacy, but she checked on him with the same attentiveness she gave to any customer. To her, that's what he was, not a beggar, not a problem, but a person deserving of respect. When he finished, he sat for a long moment, staring at the empty plate. Then he looked up at Sarah with eyes that suddenly seemed less tired, more penetrating. "Why?" he asked simply. Sarah paused in wiping the counter. She thought about it. "My mom always says that how we treat people when they have nothing tells us who we really are," she said softly. "Besides, I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it means when someone shows you kindness when you need it most." The old man nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket, and Sarah worried he was about to offer her something. She would refuse, of course. But instead, he simply said, "What's your name?" "Sarah. Sarah Bennett." "And what do you dream of, Sarah Bennett? Besides working in this diner?" The question caught her off guard. No one asked her about dreams anymore. "I wanted to be an artist once," she admitted, surprising herself. "But life had other plans. My mom got sick, and, well, dreams can wait. Family can't." The old man stood slowly. He extended his hand, and Sarah shook it. His grip was firmer than she expected. "Thank you, Sarah," he said. "You've given me more than a meal today." He turned and shuffled toward the door. The bell chimed as he left, and Sarah watched him disappear down the street. She took the $23 from her tips jar and put it in the register, paying for his breakfast. It would make this week tighter, but somehow, she felt lighter. 3 days later, Sarah was serving the lunch rush when a man in an expensive suit entered the diner. He walked directly to her. "Are you Sarah Bennett?" he asked. Her heart jumped. "Yes. Is something wrong?" "No, miss. Something is very right. I'm David Chen, attorney for Mr. Robert Harrison. Perhaps you know him better as the elderly gentleman you served breakfast to 3 days ago." Sarah's brow furrowed. The man who came in. "Mr. Harrison is the founder of Harrison Industries," the attorney continued. "He's worth about $300 million. He's recently recovered from a serious illness, and it changed his perspective. He's been traveling quietly, testing the kindness of strangers, trying to find people who still have genuine compassion. You're one of the few who treated him with dignity when he appeared to have nothing." Sarah felt the room spin slightly. Mr. Chen handed her an envelope. "Mr. Harrison is paying off all your mother's medical debts. He's also establishing a trust fund for your education, any school, any program you choose. And he's offering you a position as an artist in residence at his foundation, creating art for children's hospitals. If you're interested, of course." Sarah's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in careful handwriting. "Thank you for seeing the person, not the appearance. Thank you for giving from your own need. The world needs more people like you. Now let me help you chase those dreams you've put aside." Asterisk. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. The diner went quiet around her, other customers watching this moment unfold. Is this real?" she whispered. Mr. Chen smiled. "Very real. Mr. Harrison wants to meet with you tomorrow, if you're available. And he asked me to tell you specifically, the croissant was excellent." Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. She thought of her mother, of the bills, of the dreams she'd packed away. She thought of a simple act of kindness, given freely, expecting nothing in return. Sometimes, the universe has a way of seeing those quiet moments when we choose compassion over convenience, generosity over self-preservation. Sometimes, it rewards the heart that gives even when it has little left to give. And sometimes, a croissant shared with a stranger can change everything.